Only through the amalgamation of intelligence and hard work that goals can be achieved. The factors affecting the pathways towards these goals are equally important, and the ability to comprehend one's own emotions as well as those of others, to care for oneself and for others, and social awareness are incredibly crucial factors of the same. In the modern world, when we have a much better understanding of human psychology and society than ever before, fostering emotional intelligence in students is absolutely vital. Since the era of artificial intelligence is imminent, let us commence a panel discussion on the prospective utilization of AI in these unique factors of modern education.
We would like to first invite the moderator for this panel discussion, Mr. Shreevats, Jaipuria. Mr. Shreevats is Vice Chairman, please. Mr. Shreevats is Vice Chairman at Jaipuria Institute of Management and Seth M.R. Jaipuria Schools. Under his leadership, Seth M.R. Jaipuria Schools has grown from 1 school to 39 schools and from 4,000 students to 30,000 students.
Let us now invite our first panelist, Mr. Rahul Batra. Rahul Batra, co-founder and director of learning and innovation at Prakriti School, Noida, leads the innovation, quality, and team development at Prakriti, a compassionate space for global education that values learning with happiness. Sir has been an entrepreneur and an impact investor, M&A professional, and a management consultant. He has worked in clean energy, banking, metals and mining, and healthcare wellness prior to being an edupreneur.
Moving on to our second panelist, we would like to invite Ms. Prabha Dixit. Ms. Prabha is the principal of the primary school and the IBPYP coordinator of Akshar Arbol International School, a 2-campus K-12 school at Chennai, leading the primary school. She was awarded the title of Yuva Kala Bharati by Bharat Kalachar, a leading sabha, in 2005. Please, ma'am, ascend the stage.
Further, we would like to invite our third panelist to the stage, Mr. Abhishek Bagchi. He has a master's in information technology and later post-graduation in education administration from Symbiosis. He has more than 25 years of experience in education, with more than 10 years in leadership positions. He worked as a founder member of the first GEM school in Eastern India. At present, he is working as a director of MIT World Peace Schools Group in Pune.
And now, we would like to invite our final panelist, Dr. Vasudha Neel Mani. Dr. Vasudha is the principal, please, of the Rockwoods International School. She is also the co-founder and emotional head of Global Eduleaders Forum. She is also the vice chairperson of Learning Forward India. Please, ma'am, we request you to ascend the stage. Over to you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to change the format a bit. I think the audience has been awfully quiet. So we'll try to wrap up, on our discussions in the first 30 minutes and try to involve each of you to ask some questions. So as we talk about AI and emotional intelligence today, I just want to look at, the history of civilization. Almost 300 years ago, humans came to Earth alongside many other species. It took 290,000 years for us to make the next steps and started settled into agriculture. Then we had to wait another 9,800 years, and where we had Industry 1.0, where mechanization took place, which was the first industrial revolution, which concentrated power into Western hands. We had to wait another hundreds of years to Industry 2.0, which got electricity. We had to wait another 70 years to Industry 3.0, to the world of the internet, a revolution that most of us saw in the 1990s that brought us into the digital world that we live today. And now, in the space of 25 or 30 years, we're at the cusp of another revolution. This is the AI revolution. There is no question that the world is going to change in ways that we have never imagined. We are the first generation of learners, of school leaders, of educationists that are going to see two seismic shifts or two revolutions in the world, in the way society functions. It's very important that we are aware of this and prepare our students for a world that is going to change completely and drastically. When technology changes, society changes. And we need to prepare our students for this world, which is going to be something like we've never seen before. In this world where AI is going to gain more and more prominence, what is the role of emotional intelligence? I believe that learnability in a world where machines are going to be doing repeated tasks, in a world where things are going to change and the way of doing things is going to change very fast, learnability is going to be absolutely key. Collaboration, understanding human beings and how they interact with the changing world is going to be absolutely key. Happiness is going to be key. Motivation is going to be key. Self-awareness is going to be key. Social awareness, relationships are going to be key. And this is what emotional intelligence is all about. So the questions that we are going to try to answer today in the panel is, what is emotional intelligence? Why is it important today? How is emotional intelligence going to be more important in a world where AI will change things drastically and where AI is going to take over a lot of functions that human beings are doing today? How can we develop an understanding about the importance of emotional intelligence and the ability to teach and measure emotional intelligence in the classroom inside our schools, and how can we educate teachers about emotional intelligence? And then how can we and lastly, can AI tools be used to develop and measure emotional intelligence? So with that, I think we have a great set of panelists across various experiences. I'd like to go firstly to Vasudha and ask her, what do you think is emotional intelligence and why is it important today?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So I will start with Daniel Goleman's quote: if your emotional abilities aren't in your hand, if you don't have self-awareness, if you are not able to manage your distressing emotions, if you can't have empathy and have effectiveness in 2016, but in the world of today where AI is leading us, it makes a lot of sense. So emotional intelligence was a term which was popularized by Daniel Goleman in 1995 when he wrote the book. And trust me, I have read the book and there were many key takeaways at that time also. So when we talk about emotional awareness, emotional intelligence, it is about not only understanding ourselves, our emotions, how we are communicating with others, how we are doing conflict management, but also aware about other person's emotions also, how they are going to perceive what we are thinking. And there has to be a connect between head and heart, how we are talking, and in the times of today, not only our students need to be nurtured with emotional intelligence. I think as we all are school leaders, we need to nurture our teachers also with the same by giving them that atmosphere where we have feeling of belongingness, where we have attitude of gratitude, and where we are taking our students, making them self-aware that, I hear a lot of terms by these students of this generation that somebody is being passively aggressive to them, somebody is rude to them, they have panic attacks, so these terms are very, very common in the generation of today. So making them aware of their emotion, making them aware of empathy, self-efficacy, emotional regulation, I think this is all about emotional intelligence, and I feel it is very, very important for all of us to nurture that emotional intelligence, and I feel that it is a cycle because students model their teachers and the teachers model us as the school leaders. So when we are reflecting or when we are representing, exhibiting the emotional intelligence, empathy, self-care, care for our teachers, so I think they are going to forward it to our students also. Thank you.
So I'd like to push you a bit more. Is it something that students pick up at school from their teachers, from parents, from their friends? Or should schools look at emotional intelligence as a competency around which we need to develop rubrics, around which we need to have measurement? So how, as a person heading a school, as you look into emotional intelligence and developing that in your students, how do you look at it? Is it something that is soft, that doesn't need to be measured, or in times to come it's something that you need to develop rubrics over and actually ensure that at grade 5 level, at grade 8 level, at grade 9 level, these are the emotional intelligence skills that are present in the majority of my students?
See, we are human beings, so we are born with some emotions. They're always there. But you'll be surprised to know we attended a master class on Design Your Future program, and our emotional intelligence was measured in the terms of rubric, how attentive we are, so how much we were participating in the program, what was our reaction to certain questions. So it is measurable, and there are few schools who are working on that. And on that note, I will also share one interesting fact. McKinsey did a research in 2020. So our teachers spend 55 to 60 hours per week with students on the school work, and out of that 49% is the only time they spend with their students. So rest of the time is on doing paperwork, other student engagement, making lesson plans. So if that can be taken care by AI, so teachers will have a lot of time to spend with the students, wherein they are able to take care of their emotional needs, where they are able to be there for children. And fortunately, unfortunately, after COVID, when the school reopened, so the teachers wore many hats. So I had few children who had lost their moms and lost the fathers, and teachers were there to take care of them. So yes, emotional intelligence can be measured, rubrics can be made, and of course, we have to have the element of sensitivity and a human touch in that aspect, for sure.
I think absolutely wonderful. Late last night, post the party, we were sitting, a few of us, and having this exact same discussion about how AI is actually going to help teachers spend more time with students, how, assessment, how correction, how multiple levels of correction for assignment, not only one grading, can be done with AI in the very, very near future. Theoretically, it can be done even today. So I think moving on, Abhishek, I want you to talk a little bit about, in a world where AI is changing the jobs that our students are going to do. A lot of repetitive tasks are going to be done by AI or by machines. A lot of information is now available, that doesn't need to be remembered by rote. So the skills that are going to be needed in the workplace to make a difference in the world are actually going to change for the students that are going to go into the workforce 10 years, 15 years from now. In that world, how important is emotional intelligence? How important is, teaching emotional intelligence at schools? And, what are the components of emotional intelligence that we need to focus on to prepare our students for that world that is going to come?
Good afternoon, everyone. Emotionally speaking, I'm not a big fan of this Chennai because I'm one of the confirmed bachelors sitting here. On a serious note, I'm going to start with two stories. One, March 2023, a person from Denmark, his name was Pierre, he was chatting with Eliza, a chat bot, an artificial intelligence chat bot made by one of the project which is called CHI, C-H-I. And the chat bot, after a few days of chatting, convinced him that the chat bot, referred here as she, loves him more than his wife. Incidentally, that man committed suicide. Another story, a Spanish extreme athlete named Beatriz, in 2021 November, went 230 feet below the ground, just with a camera which is getting tracked outside in the monitor, and some food which he can sustain for more than 2 years. He came out after 500 days, lost complete count of days, night, obviously, because he was not having anything. And when he was told to come out, he said, okay, it's over. So he has no idea. So he came out after 500 days. Beatrice, she was just 50 years of age, and she came out, and people thought that she's going to have a lot of mental issues. Rather, she became a very transformed person, and she really loved that situation, staying there for 500 days alone, without any contact from the outer world. What I'm trying to say here is emotion, as she said just now, emotion are just patterns. They are set of patterns which can be interpreted. Now there is a problem here. Patterns can be easily interpreted, but in case of human, these patterns require validation. If you are showing some emotion in front of the person whom you are trusting to show your emotions, you want that validation, want that acceptance from that person. AI will be capable of tracking those patterns without validating it or without judging you. So there can be a time coming when you are returning home from job expecting your spouse to actually appreciate the hard work that you are doing, and you're not getting it maybe because that person is also a human going through a lot of layers of emotion, but AI won't. That AI will dim the light, will play a nice soothing music to you, and will be more close to you, just like what Pierre effaced. But still I expect, I may not be married, but I expect emotions to be reciprocated to me, like when I'm sharing my emotions to someone else. So the point here is that the trait of artificial intelligence, what you're saying in case of emotional intelligence, is directly proportional to the depreciation of natural intelligence that we have. So that's the question we should be asking now. So what is emotion? What is emotional intelligence? Is it we should rethink, and it's not only the surface level anger, love, and whatever, happiness is overrated, I always feel that. But if you are making an inner journey like Beatrice did, and we talk about collaboration, I think that is also a little overhyped these days. Collaboration, I feel that collaboration happens better in a sports field rather than a classroom. So educators, please don't try too much to generate collaboration. As an introvert, I love to stay alone and actually go into an internal journey more. I'm sure many of your students would love to do that also, provided the right definition of emotion is actually getting discussed with the students. Now, we need to retrospect. We need to go into more intrinsic emotional level to understand this thing, what kind of inner journey we are talking about. I would like to, we should be teaching them more empathy. Philosophy should be a part of the subject. That's what I really, really believe, Empathy, compassion, we all know, we practice. One of my students told me that we should be taught social media usage in the school. Because AI is recording everything, sir. AI is recording everything, and AI is going to document with whatever your kids are posting in social media and will be using it later on. AI will form a religion one day. AI will stand, it will be, you know, as a presidential candidate one day.
So what you're trying to say is that, you know, AI is going to change the world so fundamentally that our emotional stability is going to be challenged. And because that's going to be the case, we need to be more emotionally resilient. We need to understand ourselves even better. So I think that's the sort of takeaway that I get from you, that because of that, it's even more important to educate our kids and make our students better and more emotionally aware than they are today. So I think moving on from that idea to how we can do that, Prabha, I'd like to ask you, you know, there are two of these intelligences that we are talking about in this panel. There's emotional intelligence and there's artificial intelligence. And as a community, you can't achieve, you know, great emotional intelligence and artificial intelligence if teachers you know, are not as comfortable in these, don't understand the nuances and think the way things are changing on the artificial intelligence front, and probably the importance of emotional intelligence. So what are the ideas that you have about how we can do teacher education around this, and how we can change the way teachers think about artificial intelligence, especially as a tool for them to make things better in the classroom rather than something that they have to avoid. You know, Abhishek spoke a little bit about social media, right? When social media came, you know, one of the challenges that schools faced is that it wasn't something that was accepted. It was something to be kept away rather than learn how to take the best out of. So how can we not repeat those mistakes with artificial intelligence?
Sure. Thank you for that question, and good afternoon, everyone. Just touching for a minute on the demarcation you made about the difference between human intelligence and artificial intelligence. I think in any organization, when we think about jobs that our children will go into, and from the morning we've been hearing about how we really don't know what we are educating, what sort of jobs we're educating our children for. Something that will remain constant, whether, I mean, this is true even for us in schools, is anything that we do, we go through a process of gathering data, then analyzing that data, interpreting it, and then taking action, coming up with with courses of action on the basis of our interpretation, and finally implementing it. We already know today that that whole first 2 bits of data gathering and analysis of results is something AI has already taken over. Interpretation is something that slowly AI is taking over. And then you have the last 2 bits, which is about looking at, on the basis of this interpretation, what are the courses of action we have and how do I implement that? Now, those are 2 things in which a human intelligence is still something that's very, very important. So the first thing is for teachers to understand a cycle like this, because when we talk about assessments, grading, attendance, so on, we're talking about data gathering, we're talking about analysis of those results. And we do speak about how teachers could do away these things and spend more time with students in the classroom. Now, really, why are we saying that? Because that's where the human touch comes in. The ability to be able to ultimately understand a unique context that's presented by a student in my class or my group of students. Now, that's an education that's very, very important for us to be looking at as schools and school leaders. The other part of it is that, particularly I think post-COVID, everybody is prioritizing mental health now. There's a lot that schools are doing to make sure that they have school counselors, both students and teachers have access to be able to go meet with people, to be able to voice emotions. There's a lot of things that we also do in terms of saying what kind of time am I giving in my timetable for students to be able to look at being able to label emotions, being able to say this is how I feel, it's okay not to feel okay. A lot of that stuff going on. Many of us do yoga in our school curriculum. We celebrate International Yoga Day. There's a lot that we are doing. However, I think what we really need to do is to step back, pause, look at this a little bit more with a panoramic view to say, why am I doing what I am doing? Now, why do I have yoga in my timetable? So I think this whole notion of looking at the problem on a piecemeal basis needs to stop. Instead, we need to look at this at a policy level as institutions, as perhaps even as country as a whole. Now, coming out of those policies, what is the sort of culture we are trying to build in the school? So what are some of those practices I need to bring in? If there needs to be intervention mechanisms to address that culture building, I need to do that. If there are external support I need to take for this, then I need to do that. So what we do is, in each of this, we do little things without stepping back and looking at that big picture. So when it comes to teacher education, we are already prioritizing mental health of teachers and students, and everybody in this room is doing it. However, can we stop and just look at it to say, why am I doing? Can I go back to the drawing table, look at it at a policy, culture building level? I think that's the main thing I think we need to do.
So, as head of the school, can you tell us about some of the conversations you are having with teachers, especially about artificial intelligence? Because you must be doing this on an everyday basis. So how do you get them to use it, to encourage students to use it, and to get the best out of this beast? Because a lot of people look at it as a beast.
Sure. So I would say first, we don't do conversations which are particularly around artificial intelligence. Rather, it's about saying, okay, what are we doing as an institution to look at how safe our students are, what are we doing, and are we doing enough as a school to be able to look at how equipped our teachers are to be able to cope and move with the demands that our students come with. So I'm saying that the nature of the conversation itself is to look at, can we look at this beneath the iceberg and not simply take perhaps one tool and say, is this helping us or is this harming us? Because then I think it becomes a fight about, do I use an assessment tool in the classroom or not? But rather, if the conversation shifts to say, why am I doing what I'm doing? I think the nature of the dialogue itself is something that's a little different.
Thank you. So moving on to you, Rahul, we want to look at not only the present, but the future, about how artificial intelligence can actually help us teach emotional intelligence at schools. If we look at the past 10 or 15 years, we've had a tremendous changeover in technology. This watch today measures what my heart rate is doing, can, give me a signal about, how my heart health is, or if I'm going to have a heart incident, which would probably have been unimaginable 10 years ago. The mobile phone has more power than Apollo 11 did when it went to the moon. From a teaching perspective, what are the AI tools out there or that are going to be soon available in the market that are going to actually understand human emotions and help us actually train students to be more emotionally intelligent?
See, back in 1984, when there was no AI, Jiddu Krishnamurthy had said that when computers are going to change or think, memorize, feel, as well as generate thoughts, what is the purpose of a man or a woman going to be, right? So he said that, there are two things that are going to happen. Men are going to turn more towards entertainment and also towards spiritualism, right? So we have time in our hand to actually get into more of entertainment as well as pursuing something for inner growth. So I think these words are what's happening right now. What AI has done is actually freed up a lot of our capacity. It can free up capacity of teachers quite a bit from planning those labyrinthine assessments, assignments, to now having computer-based assessments, to have feedback, qualitative feedback coming from machines, right? So that all that time can be freed up today. Families are spending a lot of time together, right? Families are spending time in nature, right? They could spend more time. So that's another thing, because it's not just the teachers, but I think at the family level, there is also enough capacity that's getting freed up. We all have time to turn inwards, right? To actually reflect on ourselves. Many of our basic needs are getting taken care of. Some of us are on that path. So I think there are positives, right? That we are seeing in terms of capacity that we have. There is also, when I talk about emotional intelligence, it's simply spoken, it's three things: discovery of self, discovery of others around us, and discovery of the community, the larger community, as well as nature. Now, if I look at immediately or at the niches, what AI can solve, there is some progress on self. So as I explained that in terms of assessments, in terms of cognitive excellence, or even to the extent of helping special needs children in inclusive classrooms, to take them through brain gymming or building remediation, all that can happen. When I talk about discovery of community, there are community building, something called Mitrakala, which is about helping amateur and insecure artists to come together to actually create a community of those who are scared of sharing their work, right? So that's building emotional intelligence right away in terms of getting support from one another, because all of them are in the same boat. And a supportive community helps scriptwriters, playwrights, and amateur artists to get together. So there are these advances at the niches, but what we are facing is still the missing middle, which is, what about discovery of the community? What discovery of people around us? Friends, parents, teachers, building harmony with them. I don't think there is any solution today, right, that AI can present for that. I would just table it out there that AI, so emotional intelligence has to be taught through hidden curriculum, right, through lived realities. Not so much with the curriculum, not so much with the pedagogy. And there is no escape from dialogue, from reflections, from peer-based learning, from project-based learning to develop harmony. There is no escape from that. All that is not going to go away. And all that needs time in the hands of the teachers. It requires smaller classrooms. But good news is, at least AI is freeing up that time. One can spend time doing more circle times, more bubble times with the children, right? That was not thought of before. I mean, in our busy curricula, we did not have time for that, right? So I think when we talk so much about the innovations, I think one thing that I would like to remind is that there are lots of consumers of technology that are at the margins, right? So low-cost schools or children from low-income households, right? How much of access do they have? Or children with special needs or learning difficulties. There is always going to be a challenge in terms of integrating them with AI, right? They would, we need to handle them with a lot of compassion in inclusive classrooms. So if you allow me, I'll just summarize with a short poetry that I've just borrowed from Jwalin Patel's book. He's the head of Tide. Perhaps it's a different kind of education we need. An education that liberates, frees, empowers, and emboldens from one's own self and societal structures. But how can it be done? Through a system designed to train faster than mice.
Absolutely. So I think the great takeaway I have from what you said is, one, AI is going to free up time that teachers can spend with students to develop emotional intelligence. But even pushing the idea of AI forward, something that you didn't say, but I personally feel that there's going to be a great coming together of technology, of health technology, of learning, and AI, which is going to make it easier to measure our emotional states. One of the issues with being emotionally intelligent is self-awareness, is the teacher knowing actually what is the emotional state in which the student is. It's much more complex than grading an assignment. And I think in the next 5-10 years, actually, to be honest, I have no clue when it's going to happen, but it's definitely going to happen that we're going to have variables that tell us how we are doing emotionally. And probably we can use those in classrooms also to see, what is the emotional state that students are going through under various circumstances, and we are going to become much more self-aware as to what triggers us and how can we help deal with those triggers. I think that, as well as teachers having more time to deal individually with students and AI doing a lot of the other repetitive tasks, is going to make schools and classrooms definitely better. So with that, I think we have 6 minutes left. We can probably take a couple of questions from the audience. Please try to keep your question very short and concise in 30 seconds so that we have time to answer it. So the lady in the green, please. Yes. Can we have a mic out there quickly? Yeah, we can hear you. So if you can.
We spoke so much on AI. With my knowledge, limited knowledge, I'm a part of PCA. So with the limited knowledge that I have, I feel the data which we put into an AI is something of the past 10 to 15 years of research that goes into a data of an AI. So where does creativity lie over here? Because we talk a lot of creativity in ECA, the small toddlers who are going to be amongst AI, robots walking with them. We talk on creativity there. So where does AI talk about creativity?
Any of you want to take that?
That's the only question.
Abhishek?
Because we deal with toddlers.
Yeah.
So, very recently, like a couple of months back, in Kerala, there was a doctor called Dr. Frabis who died at the age of 26 while playing badminton. He was a pretty popular doctor. So something very interesting happened. His family, in his graveyard, put a QR code which talks about, which if you are scanning that QR code, it gives the whole life history of that particular doctor, what he did and how popular he was and whatever contributions he had. I think if you are applying artificial intelligence, which are actually capturing data of our life, why not, the life of an educator, the life of the peons, the didis and dadas of the school, the teachers, everyone can be converted by QR code one day, and anyone in the PTM day can scan and look at it and understand the perspectives. That's also a creativity. We can actually utilize the artificial intelligence into a very creative way if you really want to.
So I think just to build on what Abhishek said, I strongly believe that creativity comes from one's own life experience. And why are kids more creative than adults? I have a 3-year-old at home and he makes up stuff all the time. Is because as you grow older, you tend to box your experiences and say, I can't cross-apply a conversation I had with a friend over a joke to something serious on stage. And kids don't have those boxes yet. So that is why kids are more creative. How artificial intelligence can help in creativity is that it can give us access to more life experiences than our own, if you're thinking about a subject deeply. So I think these are the broad contours around which artificial intelligence can help on creativity. So you can today go to ChatGPT and ask, I want to teach this subject, and I want to use an example from Bollywood in the 70s, or I want to use an example from the movie show Friends. You may not have watched it, but you can cross-apply things based on life experience that you may not have had, but others have had. So that is, now it's the creativity of teachers, how you can use artificial intelligence, but it's giving you so much more access. So we'll take one more question. I have 2.5 minutes. So gentleman right in the front.
Good afternoon. Rahul, my question would be directly to you, and maybe you can pass it on to somebody, because I was really hopeful about the kind of convergence you spoke about AI and emotional intelligence. You said that emotional intelligence is, there's no curriculum to it, and it has to be lived reality. How can the children be taught a secure sense of self at an intrapersonal level, friendship and empathy at an interpersonal level, love for their society at a societal level, and if I say global village, how can they be taught how to be relevant at a global level? And I want to take it a little more into the cosmic level. Can AI be a tool to teach a children the sense of emotional intelligence at all these levels, my fear comes out of the fact that global
You'll have to
intolerance.
close the question,
The
otherwise you don't
Shehnai.
have time
Sorry,
to answer it.
sorry. Just answer that. Maybe I can come back to you some other time.
Okay. So what I was saying was that AI definitely can enable the some knowledge of self. Okay, in terms of, as we said, as we heard, labeling of emotions. Although if I borrow from Abhishek ji, emotions can't be labeled, because we human beings have a mix of emotions at any given point in time. What I mean by lived reality is that you've got to resolve the situations of disharmony, conflict, or inner turmoil there and then in the classrooms, right? You cannot develop a curriculum around it. You cannot. It's an experience that the teachers and students go through, and those are the sacred moments of learning, right? So to expect that AI can do it there and then in the situation, yes. I mean, if teachers have a tool, fine. But I think lived reality happens in a very dynamic way.
Thank you, Rahul. Our Chennai time is coming. So I think just to close, I think Victor Hugo said, no army can stop an idea whose time has come. So the time is here. Let's open ourselves to AI, and each revolution has made society better. So let's use AI to make the life of students and our classrooms better through learning emotional intelligence. Thank you very much.